Once a strong pair despite countless scandals, Rasheeda Frost and Kirk Frost are today at the center of a storm nobody saw approaching. As whispers of their marriage disintegrating become a full-fledged drama explosion, fans are in total amazement. But this time it's personal rather than merely another reality TV stunt. Late last night, an informant revealed startling information on a secret affair Kirk had been furiously trying to keep under wraps. And upon learning this as well, emotions were strong, accusations were leveled, and their whole marriage hung precariously on a thread. The betrayal cuts deep, and today insiders say Rasheeda is done portraying the faithful wife. She is finally revealing Kirk for who he really is. But here is when things really start to change dramatically. Rasheeda is coming for everything. She is not simply leaving. From secret social media posts to behind-the-scenes conflicts captured on camera, the truth is emerging faster than anybody could have predicted. And with rumors of divorce paperwork already in motion, fans are left wondering, is this really the end for Rasheeda and Kirk? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear will leave you dumbfounded. Rasheeda sat in quiet, staring at her phone, her hands quivering as she read through the text that had just been sent to her. The words on the screen blurred as the reality of the situation slammed her like a ton of bricks. Kirk had done it again, but this time it wasn't simply hearsay. This time there was proof, undeniable, gut-wrenching proof that he had betrayed her in the worst imaginable way. The messages weren't just flirting SMS or provocative emojis. No, this was a full-blown affair that had been going on behind her back for months. Pictures, voice notes, secret meetups, it was all there, set out in a way that left no room for doubt. And the worst part, the woman he had been sneaking around with wasn't some ordinary groupie. She was someone Rasheeda knew, someone she had trusted. Her heart pounded in her chest as she grabbed the phone harder, her mind running through every encounter, every moment that suddenly made sense. The late-night calls, the unexplained absences, the dismissive tone whenever she questioned him. How had she been so blind? How had she let him deceive her yet again? A rush of sickness hit her, and she felt like she might be sick. This wasn't simply another scandal. This wasn't simply Kirk being Kirk. This was betrayal on a whole other level. And for the first time in years, Rasheeda wasn't sure whether she could bounce back from this. Tears burned in her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had cried enough over this man. She had forgiven enough. And now she was done. With shaky hands, she hit the call button. The phone rang twice before the usual voice answered. "Rasheeda, what's up?" Her voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. "We need to talk." Now, there was a pause on the other end, a hesitation that made her blood boil. "I'm kind of busy right now. Can we?" "No, Kirk." She stopped him off, her voice crisp and unyielding. "This can't wait." Another pause, then a sigh. "All right, I'll be home in 20. She hung up without another word, her hands clenched into fists. 20 minutes. That was all the time she had to prepare herself for the conflict that was about to come. Her mind raced with everything she wanted to say, every ounce of wrath and grief boiling up inside her. This time there would be no sugarcoating, no putting things under the brush. Kirk was going to confront the truth, and he was going to face the consequences. As the minutes passed by, she walked the living room, repeating every lie, every excuse he had offered her over the years. And now it was all coming to a head. Finally, the front door opened, and Kirk came inside, his countenance unreadable. He took one look at Rasheeda and knew he was in trouble. "What's going on?" he asked, his voice guarded. Rasheeda didn't spend time. She held up the phone, her eyes locking into his. "You tell me." Kirk's face hardly shifted, but she caught the spark of something in his eyes. Guilt, dread, maybe even regret. But none of it mattered anymore. "Who is she, Kirk?" Rasheeda's voice was steady, but the anger underneath was undeniable. Kirk ran a palm over his face, inhaling heavily. "Rasheeda, I don't know what you think you." "Don't." She screamed, her voice rising. "Don't lie to me. Not this time. I have the messages, the images, everything, so don't stand there and disrespect my intelligence." Silence filled the room, thick and suffocating. Kirk looked aside, his jaw hardening. "It's not what you think," he murmured. Rasheeda gave out a sour laugh. "Oh, really? Because what I think is that my husband has been creeping about with someone I knew, someone I trusted. What I think is that you've been lying to me for months. So please enlighten me, Kirk. What precisely am I misunderstanding here?" Kirk opened his mouth, then closed it. For the first time, he had nothing to say. And that was all Rasheeda needed to hear. A chilling awareness settled over her. This was it. This was the moment she had been avoiding for so long. Her voice sounded unnaturally calm as she spoke again. "We're done, Kirk." His head snapped up, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Rasheeda, come on. Don't do this." But she shook her head. "No, you did this. You made this choice when you decided that our marriage wasn't worth respecting. And now you are going to have to deal with the consequences." She turned away, walking toward the staircase, her hands shaking but her resolve strong. But just as she reached the first step, Kirk's voice halted her. "There's something you don't know," he replied gently. She froze, her heart pounded. Slowly, she turned back around. "What?" Kirk hesitated, his expression conflicted. And then, he said something that altered everything. Rasheeda remained transfixed at the bottom of the staircase, her heart thumping in her chest as Kirk's words hung in the air. "There's something you don't know." Her breath caught in her throat. What could he possibly say now? What justification could justify what he had done? She turned around slowly, her gaze narrowing. "What are you talking about, Kirk?" He exhaled heavily, rubbing a hand over his face, his entire body tense. It's complicated," he murmured. Rasheeda gave out a sour laugh. "Complicated? You cheated on me, Kirk? You lied to my face over and over again. What exactly is complex about that?" Kirk shifted uncomfortably, his jaw tightening. "Look, I never wanted you to find out like this. I was attempting to handle things before everything went out of control." That set Rasheeda off. "Handle things?" she repeated, her voice rising. "Handle things? Kirk, do you even hear yourself? You weren't handling anything. You were out here leading a double life while I was at home thinking we were still working to heal our marriage." She could feel the heat rising in her cheeks, the anger bubbling over. She had spent years putting up with Kirk's bullshit, giving him the benefit of the doubt, trusting his apologies. But this was beyond anything she could stomach. Kirk took a long breath, glancing aside. "Rasheeda, please, just listen to me for a second." But she shook her head. "No, I'm done listening to you. The only thing I want to hear from you is the truth." Silence stretched between them, thick with tension. And then, finally, Kirk spoke. It wasn't just an affair. His voice was low, almost hesitant. It was more than that. Rasheeda's stomach twisted. "More than that? What the hell does that even imply, Kirk?" He hesitated, running a hand through his beard. "The woman, she's pregnant." The words hit Rasheeda like a punch to the gut. She felt the air leave her lungs as if someone had literally punched the wind out of her. Pregnant, she stared at Kirk, her thoughts racing, attempting to grasp what she had just heard. "No," she muttered, shaking her head. "No, you're lying." Kirk looked her in the eyes, his expression grim. "I wish I was." Rasheeda stumbled back, gripping the railing for support. A rush of nausea rolled over her. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. She had battled so hard for their marriage. She had forgiven him for so much. But this went beyond treachery. Tears burned her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Not in front of him. Not now. How long have you known?" Her voice was barely above a whisper. Kirk sighed, gazing down. "A few weeks." Rasheeda let out a sharp, bitter laugh. "A few weeks? So you've been keeping this from me while I've been wandering around like a damn idiot, believing we were still trying to work things out?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The quiet told her everything. Rasheeda shook her head, her hands balling into fists at her sides. Who is she? Kirk hesitated again, and that hesitation sent alarm bells ringing in her head. Who is she? She repeated, her voice sharp like a knife. Kirk took a big breath. It's someone you know. Rasheeda's heart dropped. No, she whispered, shaking her head. You wouldn't. But the look on Kirk's face told her he absolutely would. Who is she, Kirk? Rasheeda demanded, her voice trembling with rage. Kirk hesitated for a long minute before eventually speaking the name that made Rasheeda's blood run cold. Jasmine. The room spun. Rasheeda had to hold the railing tightly to keep from losing her equilibrium. Jasmine. The lady Kirk had played about with years ago, the one he had a whole child with, the woman Rasheeda had forgiven him for. She had accepted Jasmine's kid into their lives, had put her own anguish aside to make sure that boy never felt abandoned. She had done everything in her ability to move past what had transpired. And now Kirk had gone back to her. Rasheeda could feel the wrath swelling inside her, white-hot and uncontrollable. She took a hesitant step forward, her entire body trembling. You're telling me you went back to Jasmine? After everything? After all the suffering you put me through? Kirk had the nerve to look ashamed, but Rasheeda wasn't buying it. I didn't mean for it to happen, he whispered. That was it. That was the final straw. Rasheeda pounced at him, shoving him so hard he nearly stumbled back. You didn't mean for it to happen. You didn't and for it to happen. She screamed. You made a choice, Kirk. A choice to betray me again. A choice to disrespect our marriage again. And now what? Now she's pregnant? What am I supposed to do with that, huh? Just smile and pretend like it's all good. Kirk rubbed his face, exhaling sharply. I don't expect you to understand. Understand? Rasheeda let out a humorless laugh. Oh, I understand just fine. I recognize that you're a liar, a cheater, and a coward. I understand that no matter how many opportunities I give you, you will always find a way to wreck everything. And I comprehend that this right here, this is the end. Kirk's face twisted. Rasheeda, please. But she was already shaking her head. No, I'm done, Kirk. For real this time. She turned on her heel, storming toward the door. Kirk followed her. Where are you going? Rasheeda didn't even look back. To tell the world exactly who you are. And with that, she grabbed her phone and hit record. The sound of the door slamming rang through the home, but it didn't bring Rasheeda the relief she had hoped for. Instead, an uncanny silence settled in, weighing down on her like a weight she couldn't shake. Her entire body felt numb, her heart still hammering from the confrontation. She had finally done it. She had told Kirk to go. But why did it feel like she was the one who had been smashed into pieces? She stumbled toward the couch and slumped onto it, hiding her face in her hands. Everything was sinking in now. The betrayal, the falsehoods, the humiliation. She had spent years battling for this marriage, standing by Kirk through all of his scandals, forgiving him when no one else would. And for what? To be disrespected all over again? To find out that, after everything, he had still decided to betray her. Tears seared her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. She had already sobbed too much for Kirk Frost. She had already wasted too much energy attempting to restore something that was never meant to last. Her phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking her thoughts. She hesitated before lifting it up. The screen flashed up with a message from an unknown number. I think we need to talk. It's about Kirk. Rasheeda's breath caught in her throat. Who was this? Was it the lady he had been cheating with? Was it some random person trying to stir up more drama? Her fingers trembled as she wrote out a response. Who is this? Within seconds, another message popped up. Meet me at Cafe Royale in an hour. I think you deserve to know the complete truth. Rasheeda hesitated. Every instinct advised her not to get entangled in further turmoil. She had already heard enough. She didn't need any more pain, but something about the letter felt urgent, almost like a warning. And if there was more to this story, if there was something Kirk hadn't told her, she needed to know. Taking a deep breath, she grabbed her keys and stepped out the door. The cafe was softly lit, the fragrance of coffee and vanilla filling the air. Rasheeda surveyed the room, searching for the person who had sent the text. Her heart hammered as her eyes focused on a woman seated in the back corner, nervously stirring her drink. She appeared young, mid-20s maybe, dressed in a fitting dress and huge sunglasses, as if she were attempting to disguise her face. Rasheeda approached cautiously. "Are you the one who texted me?" The woman looked up, her expression unreadable. Slowly, she removed her sunglasses, revealing tired, swollen eyes. "Yes," she answered, her voice subdued. "I'm Jasmine." Rasheeda felt like she had been punched in the gut. Jasmine. The name alone shot a flood of hatred through her veins. Jasmine had been the woman Kirk strayed with years ago, the one he had a full baby with, the one who had produced one of the biggest scandals in their marriage. What was she doing here now? Rasheeda crossed her arms. "Why are you texting me? Haven't you done enough?" Jasmine exhaled, appearing genuinely regretful. "I know I'm the last person you want to hear from, and I don't blame you. But this isn't about me. It's about Kirk, and it's about the other woman." Rasheeda narrowed her eyes. "What are you talking about?" Jasmine glanced around nervously before leaning in. "The woman Kirk got pregnant. He's been lying to both of you." Rasheeda clenched her jaw. "Of course he has." "He's a liar. That's hardly exactly breaking news." Jasmine shook her head. "No, you don't understand. She's not simply any random girl. She's been in your life for years." Rasheeda's stomach dropped. A chilly feeling of sickness swept over her. "What do you mean?" Jasmine took a deep breath before speaking. "It's Kiana." Rasheeda's body stiffened. The name shot a spark of shock through her system. Kiana was her helper. The lady she had trusted, confided in, worked with for years. She had been in her home, with her family, by her side during some of the darkest moments of her marriage. And now Jasmine was telling her that Kiana was the one Kirk had been sleeping with, that she was the one carrying his child. "No," Rasheeda muttered, shaking her head. "That's not possible." Jasmine reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. "I didn't believe it either until I saw these." She slid the phone across the table. Rasheeda hesitated before picking it up, her hands quivering. But the instant she stared at the television, she felt like the ground had been pulled out from beneath her. There, in clear high definition, were images showing Kirk and Kiana together, hugging, kissing, sneaking into hotels. There were text messages, audio recordings, even films of them whispering about keeping the pregnancy a secret. Rasheeda's breath came in quick gasps. Her hand shook so fiercely she almost dropped the phone. "This can't be real," she remarked, her voice barely above a whisper. Jasmine sighed. "I wish it wasn't, but it is, and I thought you ought to know before he attempts to twist this into another one of his falsehoods." Rasheeda felt her whole world collapsing around her. It was one thing to be betrayed by Kirk, but to be betrayed by Kiana, someone she had trusted, someone who had grinned in her face while sleeping with her husband. It was too much. Her eyesight dimmed as wrath seized her. Without thinking, she rose up abruptly, nearly knocking over the table. Jasmine flinched at the rapid movement, but Rasheeda scarcely noticed. Her entire body was quivering with anger. "I need to go," she whispered, her voice quivering. Jasmine reached for her arm. "Rasheeda, wait." But Rasheeda was already moving. She stormed out of the cafe, her blood seething. She wasn't going to cry. She wasn't going to break down. She was going to finish this once and for all. Rasheeda scarcely recalled the drive home. Her hands gripped the driving wheel so tightly her knuckles became white, her mind racing with what she had just learned. Kirk had betrayed her again, but this time, it was worse. It wasn't some random chick. It wasn't a stranger she could ignore. It was Kiana, her assistant, someone she had trusted, someone she had let into her home, the ultimate betrayal. By the time she turned into the driveway, her heart was thumping so hard she could hear it in her ears. She stormed into the home, slamming the door behind her. The sound resonated through the empty expanse, but Kirk was nowhere to be seen. She marched immediately to the bedroom, tearing open drawers, searching for any hint that he had already left. But his clothes were still there. His shoes were still lined up nicely at the door. He was still living in her home like nothing had occurred. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out with shaky hands. It was a text from Kirk. "We need to talk." Rasheeda let out a bitter laugh. Talk? He wanted to chat now. After everything? Before she could even think about responding, the front door creaked open. Heavy footsteps resonated across the hallway. She turned just as Kirk walked in, his expression unreadable. "Rasheeda," he said, his voice cool. Too calm. She held up a hand, stopping him in his tracks. "Don't." Her voice was sharp, cutting through the tension like a blade. "Don't you dare act like you didn't know this was coming." Kirk exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "I'm not gonna lie to you." Rasheeda's eyes burned with fury. That would be a first. He ignored the jab and took a slow step forward. "I made mistakes." "Mistakes?" Rasheeda's voice cracked. "You slept with her, Kirk." "Kiana, my assistant. You got her pregnant. You didn't just make a mistake. You made a whole new life behind my back." Kirk's face tightened. "I never wanted to hurt you." Rasheeda let out a bitter laugh. "Oh, so he just accidentally fell into her bed?" Kirk sighed, running a hand over his face. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" She snapped. "Tell me, Kirk. Make it make sense. Because right now, all I see is the same man who has lied to me over and over again, proving that he was never worth the struggle in the first place." He didn't answer. His silence was louder than any excuse he could come up with. And that silence told Rasheeda everything she needed to know. She shook her head, stepping back. "I'm done." Kirk's head snapped up. "Rasheeda?" "I said, I'm done." Her voice wavered, but her resolve was firm. "I have spent years standing by you. I have defended you when no one else would. I have forgiven things that no woman should ever have to forgive. But this," she swallowed hard, shaking her head. "This is where I draw the line." Kirk's jaw tightened. "So that's it?" Rasheeda lifted her chin. "That's it." For the first time, something flickered in Kirk's eyes. Regret? Anger? Fear? Whatever it was, it didn't matter anymore. Not to her. Not after everything he had put her through. A tense stillness filled the space between them, dense with all the words that would never be said. Then, without another glance, Rasheeda turned on her heel and walked out of the room. She didn't need to hear his justifications. She didn't need another apology. She didn't need anything from him anymore. As she stepped into the hallway, she discovered Kiana standing there, her face pallid, her hands clenched in front of her tummy as if she were attempting to shield the proof of her betrayal. Rasheeda's blood boiled. "You." Kiana flinched but held her ground. "Rasheeda, I don't." Rasheeda's voice was ice. "Don't you dare try to explain yourself." Kiana's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant for this to happen." Rasheeda let out a humorless laugh. "Oh, you didn't mean to sleep with my husband. You didn't mean to lie to my face every single day. You didn't mean to damage my family." Kiana's lip trembled. You don't deserve to speak my name." Rasheeda cut her off, her voice shaking with wrath. "You don't deserve to be in this house. And if you have any dignity left, you'll leave before I make you regret ever intruding into my life." Kiana opened her mouth, but no words came out. Instead, she nodded, turned, and walked out the front door. Rasheeda stood there for a long minute, staring at the door, her heart beating. Then slowly she exhaled, letting go of the last piece of pain that had been dragging her down. She was free. This time, there was no looking back. As the drama between Rasheeda and Kirk Frost unfolds, it's evident that the future of their marriage is on unstable ground. With betrayals uncovered, secrets divulged, and emotions running high, fans are left wondering, will this really be the end of Rasheeda and Kirk's marriage? Or may there still be hope for reconciliation? We want to hear from you. What do you think about Kirk's bombshell affair and Rasheeda's decision to confront him? Do you feel their relationship can survive yet another scandal? Or is this the final straw? Make sure to express your ideas in the comments below. And don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an update on the newest celebrity drama. Stay tuned for more shocking news, for this tale is far from over.